now we are getting to the most interesting part of this series of videos, that is the actual SQL injection part. So let's start our the login form. Okay, so here is the login form, and let's say now we have no idea about any credentials, username or the password. So how can we see the actual data? So as explained in the previous videos, we do not need to know any username or the password to get the data if there is an SQL injection vulnerability. So all I have to do is enter SQL query. So we are going to enter something like this, and I'm sure that you know what this is from the previous videos. And as it told, this dash dash, the double dash actually comments out the rest of the SQL code, so we should be able to run this. Okay, now this is interesting. It's just buffing out all the information about all the users in that particular table. We can see the John123, which we used earlier to authenticate. There is another one called Iron Man, and I entered another one called Alice Wonderland into the table. So this is pretty neat. Although sometimes there might be a password column, there should be a password column which is used to authenticate the username and the password, but it's not shown here anywhere. You can't see any passwords. So how can we get to that point? Well, that's the ultimate goal of this SQL injection. So let's return. And now we have seen the columns, the first name, the last name, the actual user ID, the email, gender. There might be more, we never know. So first point is how to find the number of columns. So for that we do something like that. So what I'll do is I'll just open a text editor just to copy and paste all the commands that I have written. So let this just sit on the side. Okay, so to find the number of columns, we use something called the union. So union select one. So just copy the whole thing, because there is no dash dash, you'll have to enter both fields. So let's say if you don't enter in both fields, it says there is some syntax error. So what you do now is you keep on incrementing this one by one. So first we used first we used 1. Now we had to use 2, 3, 4 up and until something happens. So as you saw, you had to enter the SQL statement in both the boxes. So here it says the use select statement has a different number of columns, so it's not 1. So let's increase it to 2. Paste the same thing in the password, still the same. Go back, go up to 3. Paste it in the password, the same thing. I'm pasting the same whatever is in the username, user ID. Same. So let's go one more. Well, still the same. It's okay, we can try one more. Now this is interesting. We are getting something. This is not an error. So what this means is there are actually 5 columns in the particular table that is used to authenticate the username and the password. So let's paste that as well. So I'm just this is just a list of commands that are successful. I'm just typing it on a notepad, so it will be easier for us to check again. Now, as you know, there are 5 columns. Let's see if we can find what version is running, what database, and even find the user. So how can you do this? We are going to use the syntax the same syntax as this. So we can now substitute the versions, database and user to any number. It doesn't matter, as long as there are 5 fields, it's enough. So let's say I'm using I'm going to check the version with the second column, database with the fourth column, and user with the fifth column. So the only reason I am typing everything here is because this particular size is not enough to actually show the whole string in one view. So let's try this out. Let's copy this and let's paste it in both places. Okay, see, now we are getting something interesting. It says the MariaDB is the database. Then we get this, which is the actual the MariaDB is the version of the MariaDB, and the grad underscore project underscore db is the database that we created, and the root at is actually the user through which we created it. So this actually works. Now we know the database, so can we find the tables? Yes. So we just copy this database and paste it here. We'll need it. Now to find the tables, you use SQL statements like this: still the union, select, and there are 1 2 3 4 5 columns. Now we can use any of these columns to find the table name. And from where are we finding the table name? From the information schema dot tables. Let's try to run it. As there is a double dash, I don't think you need the password. So it's buffing up a lot of information. You can see the global status, process list, schemata, tables, triggers, views. These are all tables which I have no idea about, and it has a lot. It keeps on going and going. You have help topics, you have DB, which is quite interesting, you have event, you have host, maybe interesting. So it's going to be a real nightmare to find which database has the username and the passwords. If we knew, it'll be a different story, but we do not know. So what we do is we return back. So this actually gives us a lot of information, but can we use this grad proj db database and actually get the table that we need? Yes. So for that, you just use the same command, just have a few different, just modify this a little bit. So now use the table name. You want the table name from the information schema of tables. Yeah, the table schema, sorry, the table schema is this grad project. So here, if you see both these commands side by side, both are the same up and until this point. In the second, we are explicitly giving the table schema, which is the database name. Let's see if it gives us any filtered tables. Yes. So here it gives the table users, which you recall was the table that we created using MySQL. Now this is the table name. Let's just copy it. Now what can we do with this users table? We can actually find the columns, the names of the columns that are in this users table. To find that, we use this, but in a slightly different version. So let's see. So it's the same union. We select And now instead of the table name, we need the column name. Column name profile from the information schema. So instead of the tables, you find the columns, where now we give the table name as an input. So table name is users. So let's see if it's working. Seems like that. So what it gives is, it gives the column name individually. So here you see user, here you see the user ID, the password. That's interesting. You see the L name, which was the last name, the first name, the email, and the gender. So if this is confusing, you can use something called the group concat to see all the columns in one row. For that, you simply do this. Still the same command. So here you put this column name, you concat everything, and then you run the code. Simple, right? So here now you see everything in one row. So the columns are user ID, password, name, last name, first name, email, gender. So now we have finally come to the place where we are going to find the password. So how do you find the password? That's simple. The final command is union select. We'll get the user ID and the password. So user ID, password, and let's see what the email is also. Email, so that's 1 2 3 1 2 3. We need 2 more, 4 5, no space, from the table users. Let's copy it, paste it, okay. Forgot the double dash. So now here we can see the John123 that we used, and we used to pass it as capital John123. We can see the user ID for the Iron Man, his email address, and the password. And for Alice Wonderland, we can see the ID Alice92 and the password. So this is the complete way of finding the password. So there is no one command or one way to actually do the SQL injection. You just have to go with the flow. So just to see whether these credentials are working, let's open up another window. So we'll just enter some garbage values just to make sure that it's not working. Yes, it's not. So now let's use the ID as Alice and the password. Yes, that username and password is getting authenticated, and it's giving back the same results. So when you see, the first one we used was this command. It actually didn't give us any passwords. It gave us the names, the IDs, the email, the gender, but it didn't give the password. But through going gradually from one statement to the next, finding the database, then using the database to get the table, we got the table, then we found the columns, then from the columns we found the passwords. So SQL injection is actually a step-by-step process. You can't just go with one command like one holy grail and then just enter it and get all the information. No, it's a step-by-step process, and I believe this gives a good idea of how you can perform the SQL injection on a particular database or a particular PHP web app. So that's it for this video and the series of videos, and I'll meet you with another one in the future.